What is your youngest memory? Can you vividly remember what life was like as a 4, 5, or 6-year-old? Goedendag, good day. How are you lovely human being feeling at this moment? My name is Phylicia Joy Kloes, and in today's video we're going to talk about the young child. At the beginning of this video, I asked you to think back of your youngest memory, and I would really like to know in the comments below what your youngest memory is when you feel like sharing, so we can start a conversation. In this video, I'm going to share a couple of things that I have learned about the young child that I hope you find helpful. I am a Montessori teacher teaching in a big city in the Netherlands, and I teach 4 to 6-year-olds. And this age group is really fun, and I have gained a lot of knowledge throughout the years. I'm going to be teaching my 8th school year with this age group. Well, technically it's the 9th year. The young children really are sponges. From the age of 0 up until 8, children make about 80% of their personality traits their own through their environment. The children, they learn a lot, they see how social reactions are happening around them, they learn what they can play with, therefore they can continue to grow with those skills, and children make up 80% of their personalities and skills from a young age. And of course, I'm not saying that it's impossible after the age of 8 to make things your own, to learn things. However, it is really important, especially at a young age, to take care of the environment that your child is growing up in. They say it takes a village to raise children, and it honestly is true. And I feel like nowadays a lot of people tend to be more on their own when it comes to parenting, or they take it really personally when something, for example, doesn't work out, or when people have to admit that they need help. I mean, for me as a teacher, I truly believe that the children sometimes need more than what I can offer, and that is okay. It doesn't mean that I am inadequate to be a teacher. It just means that some children literally need a whole village. Well, all children need a whole village to grow up, because everything I know, of course, has its limits compared to when I teach together with the whole community, so to speak. And therefore children will get an even broader array of knowledge and skills that they can make their own. This also shows that it's really important, for example, when a child gets angry quite quickly, to teach the children that they're, for example, allowed to feel that feeling, but there are ways in which we show that emotion. For example, children have to learn to, at some point, connect words to feelings so they don't have to respond physically. Young children have to learn that they don't have to throw with things, they don't have to break things when they're angry, for example. And also the likes and dislikes of children are shaped pretty early. So, for example, me as an adult, I'm often an example of what a child could become. So if I'm sharing one cabinet in my classroom a lot, or for example, if I'm drawing a lot, then I'm showing the children to grow more interest into that specific topic or cabinet, as compared to if I don't highlight certain cabinets or work as much. It's not going to be something that probably most children will reach for, unless they have an intrinsic motivation and they feel the freedom that they can actually go and grab and explore with the materials, which of course we're working on that in the Montessori classroom. But not all children get the same, well, no one gets the same way of how they're raised, but some children are not, for example, exploring that much freedom at home, and therefore when they come to class, they can, for example, ask me if they're allowed to draw, or if they can go to the bathroom, for example, if they're allowed to grab something. And they have learned that from a young age at home. That's why they do it in class still. So for me, I still have some years for them to show, okay, inside this classroom you can just grab whatever you want to grab. And for me, it's good to observe and see what the child is interested in, so I can keep teaching in the zone of interest and they can continue to learn. But I also have to be mindful and also make sure that a child is learning about the subjects or materials that they're not showing that much interest in, because I can plant seeds and who knows how that grows throughout the years. A lot of times with the young children, we don't always see what lesson they have made their own, which is also a really fun thing about this group category, because especially with older kids, well, all children are different. I'm not trying to generate anything, but with young children, sometimes I think, okay, I'm gonna teach them about why the leaves are falling off a tree, and the child is learning something completely different during that lesson. Maria Montessori actually categorized the children from 0 to 3 and from 3 to 6. Children that are 0 to 3 years old, they're little sponges. They listen to the sounds, they try to mimic facial expressions. If you're like connecting with a baby, they're often like trying to copy what you're doing, for example, with your mouth. They're preparing for their speech through making the sounds or practicing their sounds, because all of that muscle has to be trained, of course. And then from age 3 to 6, a lot of children are exploring. They're exploring their environments. They want to touch it. They want to experience it. They want to hear it, smell it. They want to, soak in all the information. And at this age, the children are really capable of so much. It seriously still blows my mind. We are currently done with week 6, or is it week 7? I can't think. It's almost the fall break, but the young children are already reading. There are some children in my class that are already saying and looking at a number and say, okay, that's 4,322, for example. The children are, learning and growing so much already. It's so beautiful to see. And we've only spent just a little bit of time when you compare it to the whole school year of all the lessons that they can make their own. Maria Montessori actually categorized these children through the observations of the children, and when you have that more in the back of your mind, it's so awesome to respond to that accordingly and to create an environment for these children to grow optimally. And of course, I'm limited. I'm a person. I have my limits, but it's just beautiful to see these children grow and to be a part of an educational organization that helps these children grow and to plant seeds. It's just such a thankful job, honestly. Something very typical for the young child is that they develop in, I believe, 17 different areas simultaneously. They develop differently in all of these areas. Some of the areas they develop quickly and then they have a little break, so to speak. Some areas they develop more slowly. Some areas they're just not interested in yet. So for me as an adult, it's important to keep in mind that sometimes I could over ask a child when I teach a certain lesson or when I want to go a step further. Sometimes I just have to observe, take a step back, look at what the child actually needs and respond to that. So for example, a child is really interested in crafting, but the child is maybe not as skilled yet in their motory skills. For me, it's still okay for the child to try, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And a child has to learn that we don't have to strive for perfection. Although I feel like a lot of children nowadays, even the young children that I teach, deal with perfectionism. There's even a thing as burnout in these young children, because we as adults, I feel like sometimes over ask these kids a lot, and we have to be mindful as well. I was actually just watching a really interesting video. I'll link it with a little card so you can watch it as well. And children know our energy and they can tell if we're stressed, and it's so important to make time, because children are great examples of living in the moment, and they can teach us so much too. Just because we're adults doesn't mean we know everything better. There's different stages in life. Every stage has its own characteristics, and that even differs from person to person what those characteristics are. But you know, there's so much that comes to a young child. I mean, there's so much that comes to us as individuals as well. We're all so different, yet we have so many similarities, and it's so beautiful to live together with someone, because anyone who comes across your path, you can learn something from them. There's a connection, or maybe not as strong of a connection, but that's also interesting, because that also oftentimes has to do with yourself. Like, is there some shadow work you have to do? And wow, I'm distracted by all these birds. A little reminder to live in the moment. They say you become like what you hang out with a lot, or with who you hang out with a lot. I hang out with the kids a lot, and I feel like I get distracted so quickly. I do also think I have ADHD, but it's not been diagnosed officially. However, there are so many check marks, and I'm like, I recognize that. And it helps to recognize it in children. Speaking of which, that also reminds me that even the educational system of today is not still developed in the best way to suit every single child, and that's something that we should stay aware of and be mindful of, and, you know, consider all the changes that we still could make to improve the educational system. Okay, lovely little sidetrack here. The children that I teach, the 4 to 6-year-olds, they really have a desire to learn things for themselves, and they often do this throughout repetition. So for example, when I am teaching the pink tower, the children learn about big and small. I could use the vocabulary, however, I could also just let the children explore the materials. I don't tell them when it's wrong, I just observe and see what the child does. And the children really enjoy repeating themselves. So a child can just do that tower 5 times in a row if it's not more. Some children don't, and then that's okay too, because children can really let you know when it's enough. However, I do think it's important to be mindful that the attention span of children is really reducing a lot, I feel like, these past years, and a lot has to do with tablets and screen time and the way these apps are set up for children. I mean, I have an opinion about that, but maybe that's more for another video. The children really need to repeat themselves and practice, and the more they repeat skills, the more it becomes a really developed skill of their own, and when they've reached that level, they can then help someone else. Like, a beautiful example yesterday was when I was teaching a new child in class the pink tower, and then another student in my class, he wanted to teach the child to combine it with something else. They made a lot of different examples, which was so fun, because this boy is now also learning to use a different skill set, because they say the best way to learn is to teach. So if this boy is capable of actually teaching another child to use the combined materials and make certain patterns with it, this boy has really mastered these materials to where he's now teaching this other child. And in a way, he's still repeating the materials, however, in a different way this time. Repetition is key. Children need to repeat, even to the point where we as adults think, wait, you're doing this again? Yes, let them be. We don't have to control too much, I think, as an adult. And of course, there are limitations within the freedom that a child can get. In Montessori, we have a saying that there is freedom but with borders. And I think that's a really important balance that we as adults can integrate into our teaching, into our daily activities with the kids. The environment is really key for a child to learn to make skills their own. I'm not a parent, I'm a teacher, but for me it's really important when I decorate my classroom that everything is in the level of the child. I don't want things to be too high up. And I even put on crafts of the children, and I'm sometimes a little bothered with how high I put it up, because that's not the facial width of the children that I actually have to look up. So it's important to design an environment for the child, not for the adults. And like, for example, when you think of parenting, a lot of children ask parents if they are allowed to go craft, if they're allowed to, I don't know, it depends, get themselves dressed. Of course, every parent is different. However, if you design your environment in a way that children can actually reach for their clothes and get dressed themselves, for children to actually learn, okay, if I want to draw, I have to, for example, use a placemat, I have to grab paper from there, I'm allowed to use one paper at a time. I'm just saying, you can teach children the steps and then let them grab the things that they want to improve their skills on by themselves without having to ask an adult for permission, or without having to ask an adult to grab for certain things. The environments can really inspire the children, or sometimes an environment can lack certain spark for the children to not actually reach for things, or it could be too overwhelming, for example. So it's really important for the young child, for any child really, but for the young child especially, to get inspired, for there to be colors, for everything to be visible, for the environment to change around so it stays interesting. More on that in another video where I talk about how I prepare for the new themes that we do in class. Then I also want to mention motory skills. So in my class, children are allowed to draw whenever they want. They can paint with watercolors, and I'm really crazy for not having the other paint ready yet. I still haven't. The young children explore their motory skills throughout all these different activities. Children explore their fine motory skills first from their shoulders, their arms, then it slowly comes to the 3-finger grasp. And inside a Montessori classroom, there are a lot of materials where they could just grab the knobs with these 3 fingers. It's also so to practice the muscles in these fingers. But something that's really important is for us not to want to go too quickly with these children. It's normal for young children to hold like a pencil or a crayon like this at first. What is a really fun activity for young children is to make drawings with both arms, so they can learn to move simultaneously, and it also helps with the natural development of how they can grow from the more rough holding position to the more fine-tuned fine motory skills. And that also comes to play with holding scissors, using the pen that makes the holes to, I don't know what the English word is for that, but they learn to use that tool, which sometimes they get tired of that, which makes sense because you do get tired from that sometimes. However, my skills have been improving for years now, so of course I have a step ahead of these young children who I teach these crafts sometimes. But there's so much growth that comes to the drawings, and there is so much more to learn about a child's drawing. It's normal to first have like Scrabbles with colors. You can even look at the colors they use. You can see the stick figures they use, and slowly but surely they learn to observe more. They either draw from memory or they can look at something and copy it, and children can learn and grow so much. The motory skills also have a lot to do with the bigger motory skills, like for example, at first they're not able to skip yet, and then at some point they are. Same with standing on one leg or jumping up and down on one leg, stepping over materials, being able to make a roly-poly, I'm not sure what that is called, a turn. Anywho, like, their big motory skills also develop so much, and young children, their bodies are interesting, you know, because their head is a lot bigger compared to adults with their head in our bodies. Like the proportion is really different in young children compared to adults. And it's so fun to see that when the young children become older, that the proportions are more similar to adults. And I think that's really fun to see in my job, working with these 4 to 6-year-olds as they age and as we see them grow older. Young children just have to learn how to clean their table with a sponge without using too much water. Another kind of motory skill as well. These young children have to learn how to sweep. Young children also develop their social emotional skills, which is one of the 17 areas. But I want to go more in depth into this because young children are more egocentrical at first. They just think that they're environment is the center of everything, pretty much. Young children aren't capable yet, for example, to think what someone else on the other side of the room is seeing if something is blocking an item. Young children who are more egocentrical just cannot comprehend that yet, that a vision point from someone else is differently. And young children learn to slowly, instead of playing next to one another, play together, and that also comes with more social skills. The left and right part of the brain are slowly but surely working together more, and we as adults just have to patiently wait for that time to come, and give the child time to make the social developments their own through trial and error, and to be mindful of it and not to be responding too mad when a child is doing something wrong, so to speak. Because young children don't choose to be bad. They honestly always want to do the right thing. Like, for example, if a child uses a lot of water and the floor is all wet and the table is all wet and they forgot to take the excess water out of the sponges, I don't have to be super mad at them for that happening. I could just go up to them and teach them the lesson again, and then next time they're probably gonna use a lot of water again, but I have to give them time to learn to make it their own. And that also comes with the social emotional development. There truly is a difference when the children become more school children and, you know, are having the older mindset. Like the 6 to 9 year old child is so different again, and then the 9 to 12 year old child is so different again. Like, look more into the Montessori age stages if you want to learn more about it, because this video is more focused on the 3 to 6 year olds or 4 to 6 year olds. Children grow so fast. When they have a spark in them, I better make sure that I'm right there teaching them in the zone of next interest for them to grow. Young children, as I mentioned, don't want to do bad things. They really try to do their best, and just sometimes I need to give the child reminders about the things that we discussed are the social rules. As an adult, I really have to help these children also make sense of their own social development, because a child can get mad. And as I mentioned before, a child is developing in 17 different areas. How frustrating is it when something is not clicking? How frustrating is it when another child grabs your work from you without asking? And we have to be really mindful that the children don't mean to do naughty things, so to speak, but they just need help and guidance to make sense of this world while simultaneously developing in all these different areas. I often say that I have to give the children social subtitles. For example, okay, when you look at her face when you grab the work, did he or she look happy? No. Okay. Did you ask whether or not you could grab it? No, you forgot. Okay, that's okay. I can forget things too. So now we're gonna do it again. I want you to give it back to this person. Now we're gonna ask, can I have this? Maybe the child says no. Okay, the child says no right now. I understand that you could feel mad about it. Maybe we can ask, can I have it later on? Can you let me know when you're done with it? Can you hand it to me then? These children just need guidance through all these different areas of life in their young lives as a 4, 5, or 6 year old. They're just trying to make sense of their environment. And children are really capable of so much. I feel like a lot of adults underestimate children, but I believe like young children, even though they're 4 to 6 year olds, they are capable of learning about everything. And it's just up to me as an adult to make sure that I'm teaching it in the right mindset of a 4 to 6 year old. I have to be creative enough to make sure that I can teach these 4 to 6 year olds anything. Of course, I have to be really aware that I accept who these children are and the age that these children have and the skills that they have not made their own yet, that also can be super frustrating for them. I have to accept these children for who they are in this moment and not race too far ahead and think about where I want the child to be or who I think the child should become. I really have to be mindful, live in the moment, and understand that sometimes these children can throw a tantrum. And most of the time, tantrums can happen with children that are even younger, but sometimes socially or social emotionally, children are just young in certain areas and need more time developing to grow older and grow more skills to respond to certain situations in ways. We really have to be mindful that a young child has a different point of view than we adults have. And for a child to have this wonder about this stick, this leaf, this snail that they found during a walk, that they found during their play, we have to be kind of matching their energy in a way, because when you think of your younger self and the anticipation of, for example, your birthday, or finding the beauty in the reflection of the sun in the water, or jumping into the puddle of water, there is so much wonder in children, and adults can sometimes forget about this wonder and just want to continue to go somewhere because we're just thinking we just want to go from A to B. We don't want to stop and look at that stick. Who cares about that stick? But we have to also be aware that children have wonder about all the little things in life, and truly, I really think that we can learn so much from children. Young children need to learn to name emotions. Young children need to learn about mindfulness, even though a lot of children are more mindful than the adults. A lot of the times I feel like, especially when you look at that children live in this present moment a lot better than adults. But it's also really valuable to teach young children about mindfulness at a young age. More on that in another video. Sometimes young children show behavior that we disapprove of, and the way we respond to that is really important, because if a child breaks something, I want the children to feel safe to come up to me and to honestly say what happened. I can tell when parents at home get pissed off when a child breaks something, because these children often lie about what happened, throw someone else under the bus when something happened, and they really have to unlearn that an adult doesn't get pissed off when something breaks. I want the children to come up to me and to say, hey, this happened, and I can ask the children, hey, do you have an idea how we can solve this? Do you have a creative option? And then we can choose the handiest option, not the best option. I purposely don't choose the best option because that kind of creates a ladder of what is good and bad, so to speak. So we have an impact on the behavior of children. And that doesn't mean that I'm just gonna allow everything. I mean, I do get mad. I try to be aware of where my anger is coming from. I mean, when I'm more tense, I can respond less mindful, and I, of course, want to prevent that. However, for example, when a child is showing certain behavior, and I'm just going to mention, for example, being mad and throwing with things, if I respond super mad to that child, that's probably going to escalate. However, when I stay mindful, when I stay calm, I go up to the child. The rule is we don't hurt each other. I want you to go to the timeout spot. I want you to go there yourself. If you don't go there in 5 seconds, I'm going to help you. Or if you don't go there in 5 seconds, I'm going to add some time to the timeout. When the child goes, right away compliment. Wow, thank you so much for going there. Or great job on walking there by yourself. Done. If they stop walking, I'm just not going to say anything anymore. If they continue walking after that, again, a compliment. So the child learns to have positive interactions rather than having negative interactions. Young children, again, don't want to be bad. They don't choose to just be super stubborn that day, for example. I mean, older children can do things more deliberately, but I truly believe that all children in their own like sense want to do well. They want to be seen, they want to feel loved, they want to get compliments. When a child is, for example, throwing something, I can say the I want message. I want you to pick that up and put it somewhere. If a child says no, I'm telling a child, oh, but I didn't ask it. I'm saying, I want you to grab that. What is helpful for me is that I have a classroom full of children. I'm currently on 22 children in class, and I can just compliment the children who do what I ask, and therefore I can aspire getting compliments. The children are more likely to show the preferred behavior. Young children need compliments. I can tell when children are not used to that. Children then either respond negatively to a comment, children just have a blank out. We also mirror a lot of the social connections to the young children. Children look up at us oftentimes, and how we respond in certain situations, they can copy that. They can either play it out, for example, through their game. Play is super important for children. Children learn throughout play how to make sense of the world around them. More on that in another video. Also, something that is interesting behavioral wise, something that we consider as difficult behavior oftentimes has more to do with us than with the child. Like, for example, I noticed that one of my triggers is the more busy children, which is crazy because I think I have both an internalized ADHD plus externalized ADHD. So I can definitely have a hyper moment, and therefore I should be understanding these children more. However, because probably I was told as a child to lower my voice, to not play soccer inside the house, to maybe not be as busy, or for example, that has become kind of a trigger because as a young child, it was shown to me that that behavior is just a little difficult. So I now have to unlearn to see that more busy behavior as annoying. It says more about me than about the child. It's important to look at ourselves and figure out what the trigger is, and therefore we can oftentimes respond to situations more mindfully. We really have to allow young children to make mistakes and to just repeat trying. Some children, for example, experience some stress at home and they can sleep less. They can, for example, have more potty problems, or maybe something else is going on. They just find going to the bathroom more difficult. But that also has to do with this age group. I mean, it happens. Accidents happen. Accidents happen with, their body. Accidents happen by falling. And how we respond to that can be helpful, or it can be very telling of what is maybe less helpful. Like, for example, when a child falls outside, and if I do, most of the times children are gonna cry. And I don't usually respond like that. However, when I'm around other people who maybe are not a teacher, or they truly get scared, they respond really intensely, and a child can also get scared from that reaction. So oftentimes when a child falls, I'm asking, are you okay? Or just a thumb. And sometimes they just nod, and I'm thinking, it really didn't look like you're okay. And I also tell them, if it's not okay, you can tell me that too. You know that, right? If you need help, come to me. If you need help, come up to me. Unless something is really, really, really wrong, then of course you can see the difference. There's a big difference when someone hits their head on the corner of the sandbox, for example. You can tell when something is really wrong. However, if it's more minor, so to speak, our reaction can trigger a more anxiety response within the children. This is also a reason why I practice and teach mindfulness with these children, because Sometimes they fall, they get scared from it, of course, because you're playing and all of a sudden, bam, you're on the ground. That you can get a little shock from that. However, when you learn to use your breath and breathe in and out and then talk about what happened, a child is oftentimes just more capable of staying more calm. So our responses to these accidents also have an impact on these young children. And young children are smart. Like, they really quickly make connections in their brain of behavior that is leading up to something. Like, for example, a child that gets away with asking for something and an adult says no, but if a child just keeps asking or cry or whine really loudly, then the child learns that that works. Then the next time, if I want something, they just have to cry loudly and it works. They made a little connection in their brain that that is going to result into the desire of the child. However, children also learn that, for example, if a teacher says no, it probably will stay no. Young children are capable of so much. They are capable of learning so many skills, learning so many words, learning so many materials, learning to manipulate these materials. They learn to manipulate the social connections with one another. A lot of young children say, oh, but then I'm not your friend anymore. That happens a lot with young children. And honestly, it works, because the other child gets upset and then, for example, gives the toy or chooses that child to go on a walk or go on the swing. I'm just giving examples. Young children are really smart, and they make these connections in their brain, and certain connections that they learn. For example, the child that learns to cry to get something in return will have a more difficult time unlearning that behavior when in one area of their life it is always helpful, and another area of life, for example at school, where a teacher doesn't respond to that, it's harder to unlearn, but it'll take time, and a child will be capable of learning. A child will learn that every adult can respond in a different way. We as adults just really have to be patient with the way young children grow. Young children are amazing. They can inspire me. I hope that this video helped to realize that young children can also inspire you. In my next video, I want to mention play and go into more depth of the importance of playing. I briefly mentioned something in this video, however, there is so much more to talk about this, so stay tuned for that video. If you made it all the way up until this point, please comment this emoticon in the comments below. Leave a comment if you want to chat, and leave a thumbs up if you would like. Please subscribe to see more teaching content, and if you ever land on my channel, you can probably see there's a lot more to my account than just the niche of education, because, well, there's a lot more to me as a person, so therefore I also enjoy creating different kinds of videos. But I am currently in a education flow where I'm going to be sharing a lot of different aspects of my life as a teacher and sharing the bits and pieces of knowledge that I know and have learned throughout these years of the amazing world of children. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.